A stormy encounter. The dark clouds hung low in the sky, heavy with rain that poured relentlessly onto the bustling city streets. Nia, a young woman in her early 20s, held her worn-out umbrella tightly as she hurried to work. The wind tugged at her faded coat, and her shoes, though sturdy, were already soaked from stepping into puddles. It was only her first week working as a cleaner at Kingsway Holdings, a prestigious corporate office, and she couldn't afford to be late. She had struggled for months looking for work, and now that she had finally secured this job, she was determined to keep it, no matter how difficult it was. As she approached the intersection near the office, a figure caught her eye. An elderly woman stood at the corner of the street, hunched over, her frail body trembling as the rain drenched her thin, tattered clothes. Her bare feet stood in a puddle, shivering from the cold, and her grey headscarf was soaked through. She looked lost, like someone who had no place to go. Nia hesitated for a moment. She was already late, and if her supervisor saw her arriving even a minute past time, she could be fired on the spot. But as she looked at the old woman's trembling hands and the sadness in her weary eyes, she knew she couldn't just walk away. She stepped closer, lifting her umbrella over the woman's head. "Mama, you will get sick out here." "Where are you going?" Nia asked gently. The old woman, Mama Abeni, slowly lifted her gaze. Her eyes, though tired, held a quiet strength. "My daughter, I have nowhere to go," she whispered. "I came from the village, but I don't know anyone here. I am lost." Nia's heart ached. She had struggled before, she knew what it felt like to have no place to turn. Reaching into her small purse, she took out the little money she had for the day. It wasn't much, just enough for transportation and a simple meal, but she held it out to the woman. "Here, Mama. Take this and find shelter." But Mama Abeni shook her head. "I cannot take what you need for yourself, my child." Nia sighed, looking at the tall building of her workplace just a block away. An idea formed in her mind. "Come with me, Mama," she said. "I work just nearby. You can wait inside where it's warm. When my shift is over, we'll figure something out." Mama Abeni's eyes filled with tears. "May the heavens bless you, my daughter." Nia took her hand, guiding her carefully under the umbrella. A humble act of kindness. The moment they stepped into Kingsway Holdings, Nia felt nervous. She had no idea how the managers would react if they saw an old woman who wasn't an employee in the building. She had to be careful. She hurried through the service entrance and led Mama Abeni to a quiet corner in the janitor's room, where extra uniforms and cleaning supplies were kept. There was a small bench near the lockers, and Nia helped her sit down. "Rest here, Mama," she said softly, handing the old woman a dry cleaning rag to wipe her wet arms. "I'll bring you something warm to drink later, okay?" Mama Abeni nodded gratefully. Nia quickly changed into her company uniform, a simple blue cleaning overall, and grabbed her mop and bucket. She was just about to start her morning duties when the sharp voice of her supervisor, Mr. Gideon, rang out across the hallway. "Nia, you're late." She turned sharply, her heart hammering. "I'm sorry, sir. It was the rain. I don't want excuses. You're on probation. One mistake, and you're gone. Now get to work." Nia clenched her fist but nodded obediently. She moved swiftly, cleaning the long glass windows, scrubbing the spotless floors, and emptying the office trash cans. She worked hard, knowing that this job, though simple, was her only source of income. At one point, she stole a glance at the janitor's room. Mama Abeni was still there, resting quietly. A promise to help. Lunchtime came, and the scent of fresh bread and warm soup filled the office break room. But Nia didn't go there. Instead, she hurried out to a nearby food store with the last of her money and bought 2 small portions of rice and beans. She rushed back, sneaking into the janitor's room where Mama Abeni sat. "Mama, here, eat something," she said, handing the old woman a plate. Mama Abeni's eyes shone with gratitude. "You have given me more than food, my child. You have given me kindness." Nia smiled. "When I finish work, I'll help you find a place to stay. I promise." Little did she know, the old woman she had just helped was the mother of the company's CEO, a man who would soon change her life forever. An act of cruelty. The afternoon sun peeked through the rain clouds, casting a warm glow over the city, but inside Kingsway Holdings, an approaching storm was about to unfold, one far worse than the one that had drenched the streets earlier that morning. Inside the janitor's room, Mama Abeni sat quietly, resting her weary body. Her clothes were still damp, but she no longer shivered. The kindness of Nia, the humble cleaner, had brought her comfort. Just as she finished the last spoonful of rice Nia had given her, the office doors swung open with force. A pair of high heels clicked aggressively against the polished marble floor. Leila had arrived. The arrival of the CEO's fiancée. Leila was a woman of elegance and wealth, always dressed in designer clothes, with expensive jewelry adorning her slender fingers. She walked into the office like she owned the world, her confidence overflowing with arrogance. She was here to surprise her fiancé, Kofi, the CEO. However, she had no idea he was still away on a business trip. As she made her way through the office, chatting loudly with the receptionist, her sharp gaze suddenly landed on something that disgusted her. There, sitting in the janitor's room with bare feet and ragged clothes, was Mama Abeni. Leila's nose scrunched in distaste. "Who let this filthy beggar in here?" she said loudly, making sure everyone in the office could hear her. Mama Abeni looked up, startled. Leila stormed over, her heels clacking against the tile floor. She crossed her arms and stared at the old woman like she was something unworthy of being in her presence. "This is a corporate office, not a homeless shelter." Leila sneered. "Get out." Mama Abeni slowly stood up, her frail hands trembling slightly. "My child, please do not be angry. I was just resting. I will leave now." Leila scoffed and flicked her manicured fingers in the air. "Yes, you better leave. You're an eyesore." The humiliation stung, but Mama Abeni remained dignified. She nodded slowly and turned toward the door. Just as she was about to leave, Leila's cruel voice rang out again. "Honestly, I don't understand how people like you even survive in this world. You're nothing but a burden." A few employees nearby gasped, but no one dared to intervene. Mama Abeni held back tears, her heart heavy with sorrow. She had never been treated this way in her entire life. Slowly, she stepped out of the office, back into the world that had no place for her. Nia's heartbreak. Meanwhile, Nia had just returned from her lunch break, still feeling hopeful about finding a place for Mama Abeni to stay that night. She hurried up the office steps but suddenly stopped in her tracks. There, standing outside the building, her frail body trembling once more, was Mama Abeni. Nia's heart plummeted. She rushed forward, grabbing the old woman's hands. "Mama, what happened? Why are you out here?" Mama Abeni sighed deeply. "A woman," she said, "I do not belong here. She told me to leave." Nia's fingers clenched into fists. Her breath quickened with rage. "Who?" she demanded. "Who threw you out?" Mama Abeni hesitated before whispering. She said she is the CEO's fiancée. Her name is Leila. Fire ignited in Nia's veins. Without another word, she stormed into the office, her blood boiling. Confrontation. Leila was still standing in the middle of the office, chatting with a few employees who nervously agreed with everything she said. Nia marched up to her, her jaw tight with anger. "How dare you?" Nia's voice was firm, yet filled with emotion. Leila turned lazily, her perfectly arched brow raising in amusement. Excuse me. How dare you treat an elderly woman like that? Nia's voice grew louder. What gave you the right to throw her out? She wasn't hurting anyone. Leila rolled her eyes dramatically. Oh, please. That old woman was dirty and out of place. I did your office a favor. A favor. Nia stepped forward, fist clenched at her sides. You call yourself a woman of class, but you lack the simplest thing, human decency. Leila's eyes darkened with fury. Who do you think you are, talking to me like that? I am the future wife of this company's CEO. If you don't watch your mouth, you'll be out of here too. Nia laughed bitterly. I don't care about this job anymore. I refuse to work in a place where people like you exist. Leila gasped. How dare you? No, how dare you? Nia shot back. You threw out an old woman like she was trash. If you think you deserve respect, think again. You may be rich, but you are empty inside. Gasps filled the office. No one had ever dared to speak to Leila that way before. Leila's face turned red with rage. You will regret this. Nia shook her head. No. You are the one who will regret it. With that, she turned around and marched out of the office, leaving everyone in stunned silence. A new part begins. Outside, Mama Abani watched as Nia approached her with determined steps. Mama, let's go. Mama Abani looked at her with concern. My child, what about your job? Nia exhaled deeply, forcing a smile despite the pain in her chest. It's just a job, Mama. I will find another one. But I will never regret standing up for what is right. Mama Abani took Nia's hand, a tear slipping down her cheek. You are a rare soul, my daughter. The gods will bless you for your kindness. With that, the two women walked away, stepping into an uncertain future, but one that would soon change their lives forever. A shocking revelation. The sky was turning a deep shade of orange as Nia and Mama Abani walked through the narrow, crowded streets of the lower-income neighborhood where Nia lived. The small one-room apartment she called home was at the back of an old, crumbling building. The walls were thin, the window shutters creaked in the wind, and the only furniture inside was a thin mattress on the floor, a tiny wooden table, and a single cooking pot on a portable stove. It wasn't much. But it was home. Nia led Mama Abani inside, her heart aching as she saw the older woman looking around. She wished she had more to offer, but this was all she had. Mama, it's small, but at least it's warm, Nia said with an apologetic smile. Mama Abani smiled warmly, her eyes filled with gratitude. My daughter, it is not the size of a home that matters, but the love inside it. Nia felt a lump rise in her throat. No one had ever spoken such kind words about her little home before. She pulled out the only extra blanket she had and handed it to Mama Abani. Rest here, Mama. I will make us some tea. As the sweet aroma of tea filled the tiny space, the two women sat together, sipping from their cups. The storm outside had passed, but Nia's heart still felt heavy. She had lost her job. Again. She had struggled for months before finally getting hired at Kingsway Holdings, and now, in just 2 days, she was unemployed once more. As if sensing her thoughts, Mama Abani reached across the table and gently held Nia's hand. Do not worry, my child. The heavens will open another door for you. Nia sighed and forced a smile. I hope so, Mama. I really do. A mother's secret mission. There was a long pause before Mama Abani spoke again. Nia, I must tell you the truth about why I came to this city. Nia tilted her head in curiosity. Why, Mama? The older woman sighed, her fingers tightening around her cup. I came here to find a wife for my son. Nia nearly spit out her tea. What? Mama Ebony chuckled at her reaction. Yes, my daughter. My son is a good man. Hardworking, kind, but he is not married. I fear he may never settle down, so I came to look for a woman with a pure heart. Nia laughed nervously, shaking her head. Mama, I am sure your son can find his own wife. Mama Ebony's face grew serious. Not just any woman, my child. He needs someone strong. Someone kind. Someone who does not care about wealth but values what truly matters. She looked at Nia deeply, as if studying her soul. And from what I have seen, you are that kind of woman. Nia nearly dropped her cup. Mama. Are you matchmaking me already? I haven't even met this mystery son of yours. Mama Ebony laughed heartily, her eyes twinkling. You will meet him soon, my daughter. And when you do, you will see why I say these things. Nia sighed, shaking her head with amusement. Alright, Mama. But let's not rush things. I have enough on my mind already. The CEO's return. While Nia and Mama Ebony shared a warm meal in the tiny apartment, across the city, a black luxury car pulled up in front of Kingsway Holdings. The real CEO, Kofi Mensah, had returned. He stepped out of the car, adjusting the cuffs of his crisp navy blue suit. He was a handsome man in his early 30s, tall and commanding, with a presence that immediately commanded respect. But his eyes were dark with anger. The moment he walked into the office, his personal assistant rushed to him, looking nervous. Sir, there's something you need to know. Kofi's brows furrowed. What is it? His assistant hesitated before saying, your mother was here earlier today, but she was thrown out. The entire office fell into a dead silence. Kofi's entire body stiffened. What did you just say? His voice was low, dangerous. The assistant swallowed hard. She came in looking different, dressed like a poor old woman. One of the employees, a cleaner, took her in and helped her. But then, Kofi's jaw clenched. Then what? Miss Leila saw her and threw her out, sir. For a moment, no one dared to breathe. A slow, dangerous calm settled over Kofi's face. But his silence was more terrifying than any outburst. Leila, the woman he had once planned to marry, had insulted and humiliated his mother. The rage that burned in his chest was uncontrollable. And the cleaner, he asked, his voice eerily calm. The assistant hesitated. Sir. Miss Leila insulted her too. She tried to defend your mother, but she was fired because of it. Kofi's fingers tightened into fists. Leila had not only disrespected his mother, but she had also lied and manipulated the office to cover up her cruelty. He had been blind. But not anymore. He turned to his assistant. Find out everything about the cleaner who helped my mother. I want her name, her contact information, everything. Yes, sir. Kofi took a deep breath, his mind racing. He had to meet this woman, the one person who had shown kindness to his mother when no one else did. But first, he had to know one thing. Was she truly as good-hearted as she seemed? Or was she just another person who would change when she realized he was wealthy? A plan to test Nia. That night, Kofi called his mother. Mama, where are you? I am with a kind young woman, my son, Mama Ebony replied. She took me in, gave me food, and offered me shelter. Kofi's heart softened, but he remained focused. I want to meet her, Mama. But not as the CEO of Kingsway Holdings. Mama Ebony smiled knowingly. Oh, I see. You want to test her. Kofi sighed. I need to know if she is truly kind, or if she only helped you because she thought you were poor. Mama Ebony chuckled. Very well, my son. I will not tell her the truth yet. Let us see if her heart is as pure as I believe it is. Kofi smiled slightly. Thank you, Mama. A new beginning approaches. As Nia fell asleep that night, she had no idea that her life was about to change forever. She had helped Mama Ebony out of the goodness of her heart. But what she didn't know was that the woman she had saved was the mother of a powerful man, a man who was now determined to meet her. But not as a CEO. He would come to her as a humble man. And what she did next would determine her future. The test of a good heart. The next morning, Nia woke up early, stretching her tired limbs on the thin mattress in her small room. The events of the previous day still lingered in her mind. She had lost her job but gained something more valuable, the trust and love of Mama Ebony. As she prepared tea, Mama Ebony's phone rang. The old woman answered it quickly, and her face lit up. "My son," she said warmly. Nia turned her head slightly, curious. So, this was her famous son, the one she was trying to find a wife for. Mama Ebony listened for a while, nodding as she spoke. Then, she looked at Nia and smiled. "My son wants to meet you, my daughter. He has heard of your kindness." Nia raised an eyebrow, suddenly nervous. "Mama, that is not necessary. I only helped you because it was the right thing to do." Mama Ebony chuckled. "All the more reason he should meet you." Nia sighed. "All right, but I hope he does not get the wrong idea." Mama Ebony simply smiled knowingly before giving Kofi her number. A meeting of fate. Later that afternoon, Nia's phone rang. "Hello," she answered. "Good afternoon. Is this Nia?" a deep male voice asked. "Yes, who is this?" "My name is Kofi. My mother, Mama Ebony, gave me your number. She told me about how kind you were to her. I would like to meet you and thank you in person." Nia hesitated for a moment before agreeing. "All right. We can meet at the small cafe near the marketplace. It's quiet and not too expensive." "Perfect. I will see you at 2 o'clock. As soon as the call ended, Nia let out a deep breath. She wasn't sure what to expect, but she would go with an open heart. Meanwhile, Kofi smiled to himself. His disguise was ready. He would not arrive in his usual designer suit. There would be no luxury car, no expensive watch, no sign of wealth. Instead, he wore a simple faded shirt, old jeans, and worn-out sneakers. He left his phone and credit cards at home, carrying only a few bills in cash. Today, he would meet Nia as a struggling man, not as the CEO of Kingsway Holdings. A test of the heart. At exactly 2 o'clock, Nia arrived at the cafe. It was a small, cozy place, known for serving the best local tea and snacks at affordable prices. She took a seat by the window, enjoying the soft chatter of the market outside. A few moments later, Kofi walked in. Nia immediately noticed him. He looked ordinary, almost too ordinary. His clothes were plain, his shoes had seen better days, and his posture carried the weight of someone who had faced struggles in life. But when their eyes met, his smile was warm and sincere. "Nia," he asked as he approached. She nodded. "You must be Kofi." He extended his hand, and she shook it firmly. As they settled in, a waitress arrived, and Kofi nervously pulled out a few bills, pretending to count them. "Would you like something to eat?" he asked carefully. "I don't have much, but I can manage a cup of tea for both of us." Nia smiled. "That's kind of you, but don't worry. I will pay." Kofi tilted his head, observing her closely. Most women he had met in the past would have been disappointed or embarrassed by the thought of sitting with a man who couldn't afford more than tea. But Nia didn't care at all. She ordered 2 cups of tea and some small bread rolls. As they sipped, their conversation flowed effortlessly. The heart of a true woman. "So, tell me about yourself," Kofi asked, pretending to be just an ordinary man. Nia shrugged. There's not much to say. I am just a simple girl trying to survive. Kofi leaned forward. Mama told me you lost your job because you stood up for her. Nia sighed. Yes. But I don't regret it. If I could go back in time, I would do it again. Kofi's eyes darkened with admiration. Even though you needed the job? She nodded firmly. What's the point of a job if it costs me my integrity? That woman, Leila, treated Mama terribly. I will never stay silent when I see someone being mistreated, no matter who they are. Kofi felt a warmth in his chest. This woman was different. She did not just talk about kindness, she lived by it, even when it cost her everything. He studied her carefully. So, if you had the choice between wealth and kindness, what would you choose? Nia smiled, taking a sip of her tea. Kindness, of course. Money can be lost in an instant, but a good heart will always remain. Besides, a person who is truly kind will always find a way to survive, with or without money. Kofi's heart swelled. She had passed his test without even knowing it. A growing connection. They continued talking for hours, losing track of time. Nia found herself drawn to Kofi's simplicity, his warmth, and his genuine interest in her thoughts. And though she believed he was just a struggling man, she felt something deeply familiar about him, something she couldn't explain. Finally, Kofi glanced at the clock and smiled. I should let you go, Nia. But I would love to see you again. Nia hesitated before nodding. I think I would like that too. Kofi grinned. Then I'll call you soon. As Nia walked home that evening, her heart felt lighter. She had met someone different. Someone genuine. Someone she could truly respect. Little did she know, she had just spent the day with the man who would soon change her life forever. A storm brewing elsewhere. While Nia and Kofi's bond was growing, another storm was forming across town. Leila sat in her luxury apartment, seething with rage. It had been 2 days since she had last spoken to Kofi, and he had not returned a single one of her calls. She had humiliated herself, showing up at his mansion, only to be turned away by security. Her nails dug into her palms. He is ignoring me. Me, she hissed. She refused to let Kofi slip away. Not when she had spent years working her way into his life. Not when she had come so close to marrying him. With cold determination, she picked up her phone and dialed a number. Find out where Kofi has been for the last 2 days, she ordered. And tell me who he's been with. The line clicked off. Leila smacked. You think you can replace me, Kofi? We'll see about that. The storm was far from over. The truth unfolds. The morning air was crisp, and the streets were buzzing with life. Nia had just finished preparing breakfast when her phone rang. She glanced at the screen, it was an unknown number. She hesitated before answering. Hello. Good morning, Miss Nia. The voice on the other end was formal, yet polite. I am calling on behalf of Kingsway Holdings. You have been reinstated at the company, and the CEO has personally assigned you a new role as his personal assistant. We would like you to resume work tomorrow. Nia nearly dropped her phone. Excuse me, she stammered. I thought I was fired. The CEO reviewed the situation and recognized an error in judgment. He has corrected it. Nia's heart raced. Who was this CEO, and why was he suddenly giving her a high-ranking position? Taking a deep breath, she finally responded. All right, I will be there. As she ended the call, Mama Abani smiled knowingly from across the small room. Good things come to those with kind hearts, my daughter. Back to Kingsway Holdings. The next morning, Nia walked into Kingsway Holdings, her nerves tense. Unlike before, this time she wasn't heading to the janitor's closet. She was directed straight to the top floor, to the CEO's office. She stepped inside, and there, sitting behind the grand desk, was Kofi. Her eyes widened in shock. "You," she gasped. Kofi stood up, smiling slightly. "Welcome back, Nia." Her mind spun. How was this possible? The struggling young man she had met at the cafe was actually the CEO of Kingsway Holdings. I don't understand," she whispered. Kofi motioned for her to sit, his expression serious now. "Nia, there's something I need to tell you." Nia slowly sat down, her heart pounding. "The truth is, I am not poor," Kofi admitted. "I am the CEO of this company. I pretended to be an ordinary man to test your heart, to see if you valued kindness over money." Nia froze. Her hands gripped the armrest of the chair as his words sank in. "So, everything you told me was a lie?" she asked, her voice quieter now. Kofi sighed. "Not everything. The person you met was the real me, Nia. I just wanted to be sure that if someone was to love me, it would be for who I am, not for my wealth." A storm of emotions rushed through her. She felt betrayed. But at the same time, she understood. She had met many people in life who changed the moment they saw money. She had seen the way Leila acted when she thought Mama Abani was poor. Kofi was testing the world in the same way. Nia looked at him, her chest tight. "I don't know how to feel about this," she admitted honestly. "I appreciate honesty, Kofi. And you deceived me." Kofi reached out, his eyes pleading. "I know, Nia. And I am sorry. But everything else was real, our conversations, my admiration for you, my feelings." Nia looked into his eyes, searching for deception. She found none. Finally, she sighed. "I need time to think about this." Kofi nodded. "Take all the time you need. But please, don't doubt one thing, I respect you more than you can imagine." Nia stood up, her emotions a whirlwind inside her. She needed to clear her mind. She needed space. Leila's last stand. Meanwhile, at Kofi's mansion, a loud banging sounded at the front door. Leila had arrived. She was dressed in an expensive silk gown, her makeup flawless, her eyes burning with desperation. The moment the butler opened the door, she pushed past him. "Where is Kofi?" she demanded. The butler tried to stop her, but Kofi himself stepped into the hallway. His expression was cold and unreadable. "Leila," he said simply. She rushed toward him, grabbing his hand. "Kofi, please. Whatever happened before, let's forget it. I love you. We belong together." Kofi gently pulled his hand away. "You love me." He laughed bitterly. "You humiliated my mother, threw her out of my own company, and lied to me about what happened. And now you come here asking me to forget it all?" Leila's eyes filled with tears. "I made a mistake, Kofi. I was just trying to protect our future." Kofi's jaw tightened. "You mean your future?" Leila stepped closer, lowering her voice seductively. "I can make you happy, Kofi. I am the only one who understands your world." "No, Leila. You only understand greed." At that moment, Nia walked in. Leila's eyes narrowed instantly. "You," she hissed. "What are you doing here?" Nia lifted her chin. "I work here now." Leila laughed cruelly. "So this is why you fired me, Kofi? For a cleaner?" Kofi stepped forward, his eyes burning with finality. "I didn't fire you for Nia. I fired you because you showed me exactly who you are. And I will never marry a woman who has no kindness in her heart." Leila's face turned red with rage. "You're making a mistake, Kofi. This girl is nothing." "Enough." Kofi's voice boomed, silencing the entire room. He turned to Nia. I should have said this earlier, but now seems like the perfect moment. He took her hand. Nia, will you be my wife? The room fell into complete silence. Leila's face twisted in fury. You are proposing to her? Kofi turned to her one last time. Yes. Because unlike you, she understands what love truly means. Leila let out a frustrated scream before storming out of the house, slamming the door behind her. The tension in the room dissolved as Kofi turned back to Nia, waiting for her answer. Nia took a deep breath. This was all happening so fast. But as she looked into Kofi's eyes, she saw sincerity. She saw a man who had tested the world and found truth in her heart. She saw a future she had never dreamed of. And so, she smiled softly. Yes, Kofi. I will marry you. Kofi's face broke into the widest smile, and Mama Abeni, who had been watching, clapped her hands joyfully. I told you, my daughter. My son is perfect for you. Everyone laughed. And just like that, Nia's life changed forever. A love built on kindness. The sun shone brightly over the lush gardens of Kingsway Estate, where an elegant wedding ceremony was about to take place. The air was filled with the sweet scent of fresh flowers, the sound of soft traditional music playing in the background, and the joyful chatter of guests dressed in their finest attire. Today was a special day. Today, Kofi and Nia would become husband and wife. A wedding like no other. As the guests settled into their seats, Mama Abeni stood proudly, her heart overflowing with joy. She watched as Nia stepped forward, dressed in a breathtaking gown, simple, yet elegant, just like the woman wearing it. Her beauty was not just in the dress but in the kindness that radiated from her soul. And then there was Kofi, standing tall at the altar, his eyes locked on his bride, filled with love and admiration. As Nia walked down the aisle, her heart pounded with emotion. She had never imagined this moment, not in her wildest dreams. She had lost her job and found love. She had helped a poor old woman in the rain and gained a mother-in-law who adored her. Most of all, she had stayed true to herself, and in doing so, she found happiness beyond anything she had ever known. When she reached Kofi, he took her hands gently, his eyes shining with gratitude. You changed my life, Nia, he whispered. She smiled softly. And you changed mine. As the officiant began the ceremony, the whole gathering watched with admiration. It was not just a wedding, it was a celebration of kindness, love, and destiny. A vow from the heart. When it was time for the vows, Kofi took a deep breath and looked deep into Nia's eyes. Nia, when I first met you, you didn't know who I was. You didn't care about my wealth, my title, or my power. You only cared about doing what was right. You showed kindness without expecting anything in return. And because of that, I found in you what I never thought I would, a love that is real, pure, and true. I vow to love you, honor you, and cherish you for the rest of my life. Tears welled in Nia's eyes as she squeezed his hands gently. Kofi, I never expected love to find me the way it did. I was just a simple girl trying to survive, and yet, through kindness, I found a love greater than anything I could have imagined. I vow to stand by you, to love you, not for what you have, but for who you are. And I promise that no matter what, I will always choose kindness, because kindness brought me to you. The audience wiped away tears, deeply moved by their heartfelt words. And then, the officiant smiled and announced, You may now kiss the bride. As Kofi leaned in and kissed Nia softly, the crowd erupted in cheers, clapping and celebrating. Mama Abeni clapped the loudest, her heart full of joy. I told you, my daughter, she laughed. My son was made for you. Leila's fate. Meanwhile, far away from the celebration, Leila sat in a lonely airport lounge, staring blankly at her untouched glass of wine. She had lost everything. Her pride had kept her from apologizing in time. Her greed had blinded her to what truly mattered. And now, the man she once thought she had wrapped around her finger was married to a woman who had nothing but a good heart and a strong spirit. Layla sighed heavily, shaking her head. I was a fool. She took one last look at her phone before shutting it off. Then, she stood up, picked up her bag, and left the city forever. Happily ever after. As the wedding celebrations continued, Nia and Kofi danced under the stars, surrounded by friends, family, and well-wishers. Laughter filled the air, the sounds of drums and singing echoing in the night. Mama Abeni, watching from a distance, wiped a happy tear from her cheek. Her mission was complete. Her son had found a good wife. And kindness had won in the end. As the night went on, Kofi pulled Nia close and whispered, "Are you happy?" She smiled up at him, her eyes shining. "I am more than happy, Kofi. I am home." And as they embraced under the moonlight, it became clear their love story was just beginning. The moral of the story. Lightbulb kindness is a treasure that leads to the most unexpected blessings. Lightbulb true love is not built on wealth, but on character, respect, and a genuine heart. Lightbulb a good heart will always find its way to happiness. And that, dear viewers, is the power of love and kindness. The end.